Howdy everyone, Epix911. Just a follow-up video to my previous Project Morpheus video. There's updates coming out fast and furious now about the technology. And I gotta say, this is a pretty sweet looking unit. We finally got some specs on it, and I'm gonna share those specs with you guys. I've got a couple of pictures. Some of these are from Ars Technica and some from other sources around the net, along with some specifications to give you a better idea of what this technology promises to be capable of. Whether it actually delivers, well, we won't know until it's actually released, but here it is for now. Here you go.
So here we have a chart that shows the specifications of both the PS4 Project Morpheus and the Oculus Rift. I've split things up into columns, and again, these charts are available all over the internet. But what I wanted to do is provide just kind of a bit more technical detail and break it down and describe what each of these things actually means in non-techno babble. All right, so PS4 Project Morpheus column, we've got that in gray and the Oculus Rift in blue. If we look at the display, we can see that the PS4 Project Morpheus uses LCD, which is the liquid crystal display, which is used in most monitors for your PC. The majority of televisions, there are OLED televisions, there are plasma televisions, but the majority still use LCD. PlayStation Portable, the original one, uses LCD. 3DS uses LCD. The first gen PSP Vita uses OLED. And if you have that device, one of the things that you notice right away, sharper, brighter, richer colors. That's the main difference. On a technical level, OLED, which stands for organic light emitting diode, allows for darker blacks, it doesn't require backlighting, and it has a higher contrast ratio, so your differences between light and dark colors. Resolution per eye, 960 by 1080 on both devices. The overall resolution, 1920 by 1080. And I thought this was neat to just throw in, just to give you an idea about the human eye. Now, the math is a little out on this. It's open to a lot of interpretation, but very, very, very roughly, the human eye is equivalent to about a 576 megapixel camera. And a megapixel is basically a million pixels. So 1080p for both devices is roughly 2 megapixels or 2 million pixels. The human eye, if you were talking about equivalence, would require 576 million pixels or 24,000 by 24,000 pixels, 24,000p. I thought that was just a cool side note to throw in. Field of view, 90 degrees on both devices. The human eye, I've got the breakdown there that you can read, but it's basically about the equivalent of 180 degree forward facing horizontal field of view for your average typical human being. Motion sensor speed on both devices, 1000 Hertz. Connection interfaces, basically on par. The only difference with the Oculus Rift being the DVI, which really is a PC platform video connector. It's not used on a lot of other devices. TVs have it, yes, but consoles, HDMI is pretty much the standard now for this generation. And of course, USB. Audio, you've got a lot of options for the PC in terms of what you want to use. Likewise, using optical connectors, you've got those same options for the PS3. So I don't know how good that comparison really is, but it's a spec, so I've listed it. Controller compatibility, you've always got the PS4 Move, you've got the DualShock 4, and on the open architecture of the PC, you have all PC controllers available. Some are obviously going to work better than others. So here's the first picture that I've included of the Project Morpheus device, and I think it looks pretty cool because there's one thing that Sony has historically always done frickin' well is aesthetics. Sony is pretty synonymous with style, and I think you'll agree. Taking a look at this, you compare this device with the Oculus Rift, and I think hands down Sony has style down pat. I think definitely they've got the win point on style. It kind of looks like an oversized Geordie LaForge visor from Star Trek The Next Generation. You know, you got the cool little gray swirl curve that wraps around, and Based on the picture, I don't think it looks necessarily more comfortable than the Oculus Rift, but it's certainly a bit more styling than the Oculus Rift. So here's just another side view. And again, I love the curves, love the colors. Definitely looks like a futuristic device. If you think VR, I think Sony kind of nailed what your thought would be of a VR device. And that's not to say that the Oculus Rift isn't going to get slicker obviously when it's out for its final release. We got to keep in mind these are just dev kits that are being released now, not a final consumer version of the device. Here's the last picture that I wanted to include. This is an overhead view. So it gives you an idea of what the device looks like from the sides, up top, and the back portion that's going to rest on the back of your head. So I think compared to the previous pictures, I don't know. Unless I get an opportunity to try one just based purely at looking at this picture, it doesn't quite look as comfortable as the Oculus Rift, in that it just doesn't look like it would secure as tightly. But again, apparently it does. You know, there's options on the side to tighten, etc., etc. So again, just based purely visual, it doesn't look as comfortable. But as I've said before and beat to death, it definitely looks more the futuristic device.
Well, there you have it. So finally, some details being made available on the technical specifications of Project Morpheus, and as we've been able to see, we're comparing it to the Oculus Rift. So I'm really curious what you guys think. What do you think? Is this a good thing? Me personally, I think competition is fantastic. Two different platforms. You're putting VR out in the public eye for anybody who somehow was living under a frickin' rock and missed the Oculus Rift Kickstarter campaign and the Oculus Rift publicity that's blasted all over YouTube. You somehow missed that, but you're a gamer. You know, maybe you're a console-centric guy. You're going to hear about Project Morpheus. And it's going to bring, as far as I'm concerned, it's bringing VR to more people. And I think that's only a good thing. If you agree, don't agree, interested in what you guys have to think.